Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Total Telephony. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so just go through some introductions first of all. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm part of the sales engineer team here at Intreface. We're Bitrix24 Gold partners. We're based in the UK, the US and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to help you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help you to evaluate the Bitrix24 system. We can then help to onboard the whole organization with Bitrix24, so we can do the implementation work to really set up the system for your way of working. If you're looking at the self-hosted edition, we can provide our hosting services, and we provide ongoing dedicated support and bespoke training to help businesses get the most value out of the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so if you're joining today's webinar to really understand a bit more about what Bitrix24 actually is. So Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 35 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. There are over 11 million customers now around the world that use Bitrix24. And the system's available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud, and we have the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. Okay, and just to explain a bit about pricing, so prices start from $49 per month for a cloud-based system, and for a self-hosted solution, prices start with the Business 50 package from $2,990. And in year two, you just need to remember that you need to renew the license with the self-hosted edition. Okay, so today's webinar is Total Telephony. So we're going to be looking at how we can manage inbound calls, manage outbound calls, record calls inside the system, and see how that integrates with the CRM module. But let's just go through some of the key aspects of Bitrix24 for telephony. So first of all, Bitrix has a built-in phone system. So if you're wanting to make calls to your clients, out of the box, you can rent a number and then immediately start making those calls directly through the system. It's also possible to integrate your existing PBX into Bitrix24. So if you're wanting to keep your existing phone numbers, there's also a solution there to enable you to do that. We'll see how we can integrate the CRM with the telephony module. And this is really nice because we can then route and save all call recordings to the correct contact inside the contact page. And then we'll look at some of the reporting features. So Bitrix has quite a new feature, which is dashboard reporting for the telephony module. And it's also a very low setup cost. If you're going to rent a Bitrix number, prices start from approximately $4 to $6 per month to rent a number. So it's low setup cost to enable you to use the telephony module. Okay, and it's important to understand there's two different ways that you can manage telephony inside Bitrix. So first of all, we have Bitrix24 Telephony. Okay, so this is where we're renting a Bitrix24 number directly through Bitrix. All the other options are integrations, whether that's using the Office or Cloud PBX to connect your PBX or your existing phone numbers into the system, or we can look to use the apps that are available in the marketplace. So you can actually connect quite a few well-known phone providers, such as RingCentral has an application in the marketplace. You can integrate that app into the telephony module, and then your numbers are available inside Bitrix. So we'll look at those different options as we go through the webinar today. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to look at is Bitrix Telephony. So as we've just mentioned, Bitrix Telephony is where you rent a number directly through Bitrix24. So let's go into our Bitrix24 system. And what you want to do to actually go through and rent a new number, you want to go to your telephony module inside Bitrix. Or if you can't see that menu item in your menu, all you have to do is search telephony, and then you can pull it up through here as well. Okay, so let's go into telephony. And then inside here, if we're going to rent a new number through Bitrix, all we need to do is go to the rent a number area here, and we can click on the rent a number. Okay, and then through here, what we can do is we can select what country we want to have a number for. So if I'm in the UK, for example, I can select the UK country. I can then choose the type of number that I would like to have. So let's say if it's a mobile number, or if it's a national or local number, I could choose the local region that I want to rent this number for. And then I can select the rent button here. And then that is going to cost me approximately $6 per month to rent that Bitrix24 number. Now, when you rent that number, just to bear in mind, there are call rates for the country that you are calling to. So when you rent a Bitrix24 number, all inbound calls are included in the rental of the number. Outbound calls, they will be charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. Okay, so these are the call rates here, and I will add these into the chat box on our Zoom channel. So inside here, I'm just going to add the link into the chat so you can see the costs here for outbound calls. So it's just something to bear in mind before you decide the best option for telephony. Probably best, if you know you're going to know what country you're going to be calling to a lot, check the pricing here just to make sure it's okay for your budget and for what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so that's the outbound call rates, and as I say, inbound calls are included in this monthly cost. Now, just to point out, on some countries here, let's say if I pick Germany, then inside here, when we can rent this number, one, there is a connection cost. So with some countries, there is an additional one flat off fee as a connection cost. So you'll only be charged once for connecting that number. But also more importantly here as well, you can see here, you need to upload a valid postal address to actually prove that you have a physical location for the business inside that jurisdiction. So for example, here in Germany, I would have to prove that I have a valid address within Germany to rent that number. So again, something else just to bear in mind before deciding what is the best option for yourself. Okay, so we've rented a number there, and then what we can do inside here is we can top up our balance. So you need to have a running balance here to be able to receive calls and also to make those outbound calls, because as we've seen, we've got our price list here. So as we make outbound calls, our balance will reduce here. So you can see your total balance. Just keep on topping this up to make sure you've got an active balance on the system so your renting of a number keeps active. Okay, so that's first of all how we can rent a number inside the Bitrix24 system. So that's renting it directly through Bitrix24. So that is a brand new number that you will be using. You can't use an existing number with the renting of a Bitrix number here. It is going to be a brand new number that you are using. So again, if you're wanting to keep your existing number, when we later on in the webinar look at integrations, that's really going to be what you will need to do. Renting a number here is going to be a brand new number. Okay, but once we've got that number, we can then do a full configuration to turn this into a virtual phone system. So first of all, here you can see the numbers that we have set up inside our system. So these are rented numbers inside our application here. And what we can do is we can go into the configuration area here, and we can now set this up as a virtual phone system. So when people are calling into this number, we can set up our own virtual system here to manage the whole connection with the client. Okay, so first of all, inside the inbound call routing system, what we could do is we could set up a virtual voice menu, so an IVR menu. So when the client calls into this number here, we could give them predefined options here that we can apply to the client. So here we can see, for example, our options. So first of all, for, let's say, number one, we could add a queue group. So let's say it's going to be one to speak with sales. 2, we could say, let's speak to our support team, and etc. So by giving the client those predefined options, we can then route the call very quickly to the correct area of the business. And further up here, we've got the text to speak. So inside here, you can type out what the message is going to be that is channeled to the customer when they call our new rented number. Okay. Okay, so we've got our message that we have added, and then we can even customize the language of what the voices are, the language for the menu option there. So hello, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. If you don't want it in English, you can customize the language here. You can customize the speed and also the volume that the message gets relayed to the customer. And if you have a commercial plan, you could also just record your own message and upload that as an audio file. So I think this is a really nice option because it just allows calls to have almost that pre-screening, so you can make sure calls are sent to the correct person at the correct time inside the business, and it saves your operators time as well. So calls don't need to be managed and moved across the business if they've not gone to the correct departments in the first place. Okay, so that's how we can set up our voice menu there. Now you can also, we saw how we set up different groups, so we can add groups into here. So for example, if we want to add additional users to our support group, I can just click into here and add users from our business into the support group. And for each group you set up, you can also configure settings here. So we can decide how a call's distributed. Are they distributed evenly among people in the group? Is it kind of in a queuing process? And how many rings, for example, before it would move to the next person in the group. So there's lots of settings you could set up here on the menu. Really important as well is CRM integration. So for example, inside here, what we can do if the number is being called into our rented number here, if it's not recognized in the CRM system, we could create a brand new lead inside the CRM system. And then what we can also do inside here is we can record calls. So you can turn this on and off so that the saving of calls is done inside the CRM system. So you can then see all of the history of calls directly inside the customer's page. And you can also play a warning message just to warn the client that this call is going to be recorded. Now, we do get this question quite a lot around transcribing. So you can turn on the transcribing feature if you want those calls to be documented. Now, this is an additional cost. This is not included in the cost of renting the number. So you can click through here to find more information about transcribing functionality. Okay, another setting is working hours. So that's really important if you are a call center, and we do have lots of call centers that use these features. You may want to set some operational hours when calls are able to be managed inside the system. So you can set up your calling hours, and then when you're out of office, you can set up a process for that as well. So whether that's enabling a voicemail, forwarding a call maybe to an overnight number, for example, or we could just have an out of hours pre-recorded message set up inside the system as well. So as you can see here, when we've rented that number through Bitrix, there is a huge variety of virtual phone settings that we can set up inside the system. But it's also quite important to make sure you only have the people within the Bitrix system that you want to be able to make those changes. So what we have here are access permissions. So what we can do inside here is we can set up user roles. So such as like here, we've got an administrator role. And then based on this information, we can then set up different settings. So here, for example, telephony settings, we could deny access to certain roles. So if you're, say, a standard user, we could deny access, whereas the administrator is able to update all of those telephony settings that we have just looked at. So it's really important to get those permissions set up correctly for how you want your organization to configure telephony moving forward. Okay, so that there is a look at the Bitrix24 telephony setup. Now let's take a look at the Bitrix telephony inside the CRM system. So let's see how that integration that we just saw in the settings, how we can connect the CRM with our numbers. Let's see how that looks directly inside the Bitrix24 CRM system. So if we go into our CRM, first of all, what we can do is if we go into a customer's page, then what we can do is we can access the client's communications log. So let's go into a client's page here. And inside here, you can see we have some call recordings. So this is where that setting that we turned on is playing action. So from here, I can play the callback.
Hello, it's just me.
Okay, so you've got that call history. We can see when the call took place, who was responsible for the call, and I can play that call back directly inside the customer's page. I can also call the client directly through the system. Okay, and that call would then also be recorded directly inside here. So all of that history is saved in the client's page using call recording. We can receive calls, and when a client calls into the system, it will pop up with their contact details. And we can then have the call routed to say the responsible person, or as we saw, we could set up the IVR menu so we could channel that inbound call to the correct department. And they would then be able to see who is calling into the system before they even answer the call. So it's a really nice piece of functionality that you can enable inside the system. Now, what we can also do inside the system is set up call lists. So this is a really popular feature if you're using leads inside the CRM system. You may want to assign a group of leads to one of your sales reps who then needs to call those leads. So what we can do inside here is we can set up and assign these leads. So you may have specific leads you want to assign to somebody. And then through here, what we can do is we can create a call list. Okay, so from here, I've selected those 4 leads. And I'm going to click on the create call feature here. And now what I can do is I can assign this call list to one of our sales reps. So let's assign this to Lucy. And this then opens up Lucy's calendar. So I can see when Lucy is available or when she's not available. So I'm going to say here 10 till 10:30 is going to be this lead call list. So let's just give this a title. Okay, so I've given this call list a priority title there, and I can also give a description for this so Lucy's aware of what this call list is about. Okay, so we have added that into the system here, and then I can save that information, and that now will be assigned to Lucy as an activity scheduled into her calendar to call that list of leads. And through here, what we can do as well is we can use the auto dial feature. So I can select those leads and then I can start dialing directly through the system. And that's going to set up your call list inside here. So I can go through and call those leads inside the system. So you have a semi-automated dialer system here to be able to click and call those leads directly through the system. And another nice feature within the CRM using telephony on leads and deals is how we can set up automation processes as well. So through here, what we can do is at different stages of the system here, what we could do is we could set up a robocall. So as the lead here is progressing through a certain stage, so let's say when we get to this second call stage, what we could do inside here is we could set up a pre-recorded message that would go out to the client. So let's say, for example, here, hello, we can dynamically bring in the lead's information. So inside here, we can add their name. So you can dynamically populate this call with information from the CRM system. Okay, so we can add this message into here. And again, just like with the IVR menu, you can customize the language, the speed, and the volume here. So as soon as we hit the second call stage, that's going to trigger this automation, which is going to send a phone call to that lead. When they answer that call, this message here is going to be relayed to the client based on the settings here that we have set up. That's another piece of functionality we can set up inside the CRM system. So you can see how telephony within the CRM is used in lots of different areas, from call recordings to creating call lists to setting up automated voice menu items as you go through leads and deals. So it becomes a really powerful solution across the entire CRM network. Okay, so that's the CRM where we can have telephony integration. One other area as well is in the marketing module. So inside here, very similar to the automations, what we can do is we can set up our voice menu recording. So inside here, we can add the text that we want to get spoken out to the client. So again, very similar functionality, just like with the automation templates. But what we can do inside here is we can send this out to a specific segment of people. So rather than using stages in the sales process, what we can do inside here is we could pull in maybe all of the leads based on a lead type, for example, and we could just send it out to that category of clientele there. And the other type of telephony connection here is an audio call. The key difference here is you upload the recording that you want to get sent out to all of your recipients inside the system. Okay, so that is a look there at the Bitrix24 Telephony. Just to say, if you have any questions, please do add them into the question box. During the intervals, we can run through any questions that you have. We did have a question come in earlier on around the call rates, so I hope we've been able to answer that for you. The call rates are based on a per minute charge. So based on what country you're calling to, you will be charged per minute based on that call duration. Okay, so that's what's the outbound call rates are classified in terms of a cost based on that country you're calling to, and it's a per minute charge. Okay, so first of all there, we've looked at Bitrix24 Telephony. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the other way of using telephony in Bitrix, which is integrations. Okay, so the key difference here, I would say, is if you're wanting to use your existing number, then integrations is the way you will need to go. So there's quite a few different reasons as well why you may want to do this. It could be you've got a really competitive commercial package set up with your phone provider and you don't want to lose that competitive pricing you have. Or maybe your phone numbers are so valuable to the organization, you don't want to use a different number moving forward. Or maybe your current provider has very good functionality that you need in the business and you don't want to move away from that key functionality that they're able to provide. So in those circumstances, we'll have to look at integrating those phone providers into Bitrix24. So let's take a look at how we can do this inside the system. Okay, so let's go back into telephony. And then inside here, what we can do is, first of all, let's look at using the SIP connector to integrate our phone provider into Bitrix. So what we can do inside here is, if you have an Office or a Cloud PBX, or if you can provide SIP trunks, you can keep your current phone number and get access to all of the Bitrix24 telephony and CRM features by renting a SIP connector. So depending here whether you have an Office or a Cloud PBX, essentially the process is very similar. The only difference is the information you are going to input into this form. So inside the Cloud PBX connector, what we do is we click on the Connect Cloud PBX button, and this then opens up a form that we need to fill in. So you'll be able to get this information from your phone provider if you don't have this to hand. And then once you've inputted this information, what you do then is you have 60 minutes to configure and test outbound calls to make sure the connection has worked correctly. And then that will show that you're able to make outbound calls through Bitrix and also receive inbound calls directly inside the Bitrix system. Once you've used that 60 minutes, then what you need to do is purchase the SIP connector. Okay, so this is a $49 per month. It's a flat rate charge to integrate your phone numbers into Bitrix using the SIP connector. So that's something you will need to budget for moving forward. But if you've got a lot of phone lines, there's no cost per phone line here. You can integrate as many phone lines as you need to using the SIP connector, but it is a $49 per month charge there. And it's exactly the same for the Office PBX. So if you've got an Office PBX here, you click on the Connect Office PBX, and the form is just slightly different with the information and credentials that you need to input. So that's the first way of integrating into Bitrix. The second way is using the marketplace apps. So within the telephony module here, Bitrix24 has 28 different phone providers that they have integrations with in the marketplace. So for example, if you're with Ring Central, for example, what you could do is you could install the Ring Central Telephony app here. So it's a free installation. So you would just click on the install, and that would then enable you to use your Ring Central numbers directly through the Bitrix24 system. Now, the only thing with this app, and it will be similar with other phone providers in the app marketplace here, you need to make sure you have the correct Ring Central plan. So for the Ring Central application to work, you have to have a premium or an enterprise Ring Central plan. Otherwise, you can't use the application. So you just need to check that you have the correct criteria to be able to use the application. But then, like I say, this is free on the Bitrix side. So you install the app here, and then you're good to go to make those calls directly through the Bitrix24 system. And if neither of those options work for you, then we can discuss to see what is the most appropriate process moving forward. An alternative is actually using the Bitrix24 API, and we can develop an integration bespokely for you. Now, that as a word of warning could cost somewhere in the region of $15,000 to $20,000. But we can walk through the options with you to see what is the most appropriate solution for your specific requirements. Okay, so let's just see if we have any other questions that have come in today. Okay, so there's no questions right now. Please do add them into the question box and we can run through those for you. Okay, so moving on to look at some of the costs. So we have talked a lot about costs throughout the webinar today. So first of all is to remember the Bitrix24 Telephony integration. So you will pay for the renting of the Bitrix24 number, somewhere in the region of $4 to $6 per month to rent the number. Inbound calls are included in that cost, and outbound calls are charged per minute based on the country you are calling to. And we've added the call rates into the chat box for you to review. If you're going to use the Bitrix SIP connector, so that will cost you $49 per month as a flat rate every month, but then there are no additional call costs. You just continue with the commercial contract that you have with your existing phone provider. So there's no additional cost through the Bitrix system, just that SIP connector cost of $49 a month. Or we can look to use the apps in the marketplace. So you just need to make sure you've got the correct commercial license with your phone provider. Most of the apps, I believe, are free to install through the marketplace in Bitrix. Or the alternative is we can build you a bespoke integration via the API. So that could cost somewhere in the region of $15,000 to $20,000. Okay, moving on now to look at reporting. So Bitrix has several reporting dashboards within the telephony module. So first of all, if we go into the call details area, inside here, you'll see a log of every single call that's taken place inside the system, and you can filter through this information. So if I wanted to find those, maybe of a certain client, for example, I could go into here and find those and drill down into that information. If the call's been recorded, I can play those calls back through the system, and you can customize what information you want to show in this dashboard. So I could maybe turn on and turn off different fields that I want to pull into here. And all of this data can be exported into Excel. And then we can also create dashboard reports, which is really a nice additional feature that Bitrix has released recently. So inside here, we can build high-level dashboard reports looking at the call statistics across our internal contact center team. So I can see how many inbound, outbound calls they've taken, how many calls in total, and you can customize and filter through this dashboard. We might also want to look at maybe the call density. So let's say we might want to look at all of the unanswered calls over a time period. Or if you are a call center, you might want to see how those calls are distributed so we can see how busy we are at different times of the day. So this is really useful for actually resourcing. I can see when we're busiest at a different time of the day. So on Sunday around midday, this is when we're really busy. So we need to make sure we have enough staff on and booked onto the system. And we can also do high-level dashboard reports looking at employee performance. So we can see who's been involved in calls across our team. We could look at average call durations. So we can see actually who is making the longest call lengths across our contact center team. So you can see here, there's a lot of different high-level dashboard reports we can create using the information from the telephony module. Okay, so let's look at reporting. So in summary today, we've seen how we can use Bitrix24 as a virtual phone system. So we can manage our IVR menu. We can integrate those calls with the CRM system and have those calls recorded. We can set up call lists and use the auto dialer to quickly call through our leads inside the CRM system. And then we've just seen how we can do call reporting. So we can create high-level dashboard reports based on the data inside our telephony module. And a very important aspect is just the low setup cost. There really is no barriers to entering the telephony module and setting up your own phone numbers. It can cost from as little as $4 per month to set up. Okay, so thank you for joining today's webinar. Here's a selection of our up and coming webinars. Please do visit Intreface.com/webinars to join and register for our up and coming webinars. We're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. If you do have any questions or if you'd like to set up a call with one of our team in the meantime, please do contact us, sales@intreface.com. One of our team will be happy to discuss your questions and requirements in detail. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you found today's Total Telephony webinar useful, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.